There you have it, folks. It's the start of the car profile. We're looking at the Alfa Romeo 4C Group 3 car. An interesting car and one that has been in the game since GT Sport. Now, if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel to stay in touch with all the latest car profiles coming out every single week. Now, this car, let's talk about this car a little bit. So, it's Group 3, obviously, so GT3 technically, and it's a car that doesn't exist in real life, but it's a nice car that exists. It's actually a really good representation of a GT3 car for Alfa Romeo. Now, this is an MR layout, so it has 6 gears in this car, and it's got 2 liveries you can pick from as well. I picked the old school livery from GT Sport. I just prefer that over the newer Alfa Romeo livery that is in the game. Now, this car has a very good top-end speed. It really does, and it's very stable as well. It really is stable. Has more understeer than oversteer, which is unusual for an MR car. Without further ado then, let's get into the test then. We're going to test out the performance of this car at 3 circuits like we always do. First up then, Laguna Seca in the low-speed bop test. Why do we do these tests? We've got a low, medium, high-speed bop test. These are the classifications Gran Turismo has given them in GT7. So what we do, we're looking at the fastest lap I did in the car, but we take the optimums as well. And we're going to compare against the fastest car we've seen around this track during the car profiles, which at the moment is the Audi R8 LMS. And as you see there, we are only just down there by 1/100th of a second. So we'll see what happens here. Now, both cars are MR, so I expect them to be similar, but the Audi definitely handles a little bit better, more oversteer, but it makes it harder to drive versus this Alfa Romeo, which you're seeing right now doesn't really suffer any big problems in my opinion. Coming up to the kink then here, this left-hander, I could really go aggressive here. So some of my laps actually that I did later on, I went too aggressive because it gave me so much confidence, this car. It really did. As we head into the corkscrew then, going down here again, it was pretty fine to be honest. I had a bit of oversteer sometimes there, but it's because I was going so aggressive in the car, and it really does want to push you in terms of aggression. As we head now towards the final few corners then in towards the right, we are still down on that Audi R8 as we head towards the last corner, then in towards this braking zone we go. We get it turned in, clip the curb and accelerate out there. No real drama at all in that lap, to be honest with you. As we head towards the line, we're looking for a 21.8 and we're in the 22s there, so we're down by 3.5 tenths, which just makes sense. The Audi definitely feels more handling type than it does in this Alfa Romeo. But even so, let's have a look at the overall board then, or the board where we look at the optimum times for each individual car that we've done. Looking at this then, the Alfa Romeo comes in P3 there, so just ahead of the Ford GT. It really did struggle with that understeer, in my opinion, going around this circuit. So it's something potentially there that needs improving slightly in this car, maybe, I don't know. But it does make it really safe to drive, so it is what it is. We jump to the medium speed track then, where we're in, well, we're in the Alfa Romeo, of course, and we are on lap number 11. This is the last lap, so if you're not sure what we do in these car profiles, we do an out lap and then do 10 fast laps. Again, we take the optimum lap as our overall, but I show you the fastest lap I do in the session. So obviously, if it's the last lap, I've done very well here, and this is going to be the fastest, and I've really built those times up. Let's go down here then. We're looking for a 33.5 technically then as we go through that sector. Down at a 0.6, but I'll tell you now, while we're 1.5 tenths down, I have done a quicker sector 1 overall in the session, and that's why we look at optimums, because it's very easy to do 10 optimums across 10 different sectors, but trying to do one perfect lap in those 10 laps is a bit more difficult. You get more shots at the cherry essentially to build an overall lap and an overall picture for the car. So heading towards the hairpin then, this is always a tricky corner for most cars just because of the way the power goes down in these cars. But being MR, a lot of the weight is over that rear wheels. You can accelerate out absolutely fine there. Now you do rev this car to the limits, but it doesn't rev that much into the limits, to be honest with you. It's around 8,500 RPM before you have to change. But it starts flashing and you basically change at that point. Head towards Spoon. We're actually going to see some of this understeer again as we go through here. I can't go full throttle straight away here. You see I'm trying to slow the car down a lot before going onto that power to get round. The car does suffer with that understeer, but I'd say it makes it safer to drive, and that's the sort of thing you've got to take away from this. You want oversteer, harder to drive, or understeer, easy to drive. Like turn 1, for example, in an MR car here, usually is dreadful as well. Under a 10th off the Audi then. This could be a new fastest lap here, but it's normally turn 1 in an MR car is dangerous. But in this car, it was actually not too bad at all. And again, it's one of those where I could keep trying to go aggressive, and that's why some of my lap times are a bit weird on that right-hand side. Anyway, we head towards the line then. We're just under a 10th off that Audi R8. It was 800ths of a second. Once again, it's going to go down to 600. So we were gaining throughout that lap then on the Audi R8, which makes sense because the lap does get faster. Goes from a handling more to a power circuit, and that's why it's a medium speed bop track. And it makes perfect sense, to be honest with you. Let's have a look at the leaderboard then for Suzuka and the Alfa Romeo in P2. Just there. Look at that. Just 300ths off the Audi R8. So that makes sense here. Alfa doing very well here, the medium speed bop. So maybe it's good across all medium tracks. Who knows? We can't only do one track. We can't do a billion of them as we go to the high speed test then. We're at Bathurst for this one. Once again, lap 11. So we've really left it till the last lap here to nail the fastest lap at least as we continue out of turn 1. Now, turn 1, I did struggle a little bit in this car actually. And you can see there, we're actually racing the Corvette C7 Group 3 car. Yes, we are indeed. So if you remember last time, the Ford GT was the winner, then it was the Corvette, and let's see if the Alfa can beat the Corvette. We are up right now. We are purple by 22 thousandths of a second then as we go into this right-hander, and it's slight clip of the barrier. This is why we do optimums on a sector base, not of the fastest lap, because of little mistakes that can happen. Even so, we're going to push on through this lap, see if we can keep up with that Corvette. That slight mistake will have cost us a little bit of time, I suspect, then as we go up the mountain. Then slight lift there. Some cars you don't have to lift. You can see the understeer once again in this car as we go down this hill and then through this left-hander. Slight lift there. Again, I suffered a bit of understeer here and on this bit as well there, because it's MR, the front lifts up, remember. So you have the understeer plus the weight lifting. It really does impact the car there on that corner as we go down here. Then we're 57 thousandths down on the Corvette. Still there though, there or thereabouts as we go into this, and we suffer the usual MR issue there on that little bit there. As it dives down, the weight shifts and it just causes a bit of oversteer there. That's going to lose us some more time, because I know the Corvette was so strong in that bit on that lap that it will be doing very well. If you remember, it was so far up, it was easily over a second up on the Audi R8, for example, as we head then towards the next split time. We're looking for 33.0 then as we head up this hill, then down the straight, and it's 33.7. Look at that, 6.5 tenths down. That's that downhill section. Really compromising the Alfa Romeo then as we head into the final corner. Good on his brakes, this Alfa, to be fair. I found it at least anyway as we go through this right-hander then. Very stable again on power as we head towards the last corner then. Looking for that tree on the right-hand side as we head in towards the braking zone as we turn in. Going to accelerate through this corner. And a little bit of a wiggle there. Nothing major, though, in this car. Second gear always has a little bit of a wiggle as we head towards the line then. And we are 4 tenths down. So we gained 2 tenths in the last sector. But I know the Corvette had a bad last sector as well. Remember, we look at optimums for this very reason then. As we're going to jump to those leaderboards then. What's going to be happening here? And the Chevrolet still top. Alfa's actually P3 there. 1 tenth behind the Ford GT, which we know is very quick in a straight line. So third in line there as well. Remember, we look at the overall summary as well, because the BOP is the same across all of them at the moment. That is what we do. Now we're going to look at fuel then in terms of the fuel saving test. So top left, maximum RPM. Top right, the quarter shift, and down at the bottom, a quarter shift plus fuel map. Remember, to save fuel in this game, revs are critical. The lower the revs you change gear, the more you'll save. Fuel map is just the last resort, which is why we're doing quarter shift and fuel map 3. Okay, because that is the worst way to save fuel, is using that fuel map. I know some of you in automatic have to use that, but try and learn manual. We're going to head towards the 2,500 meter line then, and then we'll take a little picture then of the fuel at the time as the speed builds up. 2.5k is about the maximum in terms of a straight that we can see in the game. And as you see in that top left hand side, 31.700 there, 45% fuel saved. We're then going to advance in a second to when the next one finishes. Remember, in the previous test, we actually saw a quarter shift beat the maximum RPM. On the right side then, you can see the quarter shift then. It's 5 tenths down-ish, nearly 6 tenths down there on the quarter shift. So you can see it's a performance loss by doing that quarter shift. It shows you it's a full maximum rev range car in terms of you rev it to the limits and change gear. And as we advance down at the bottom then, it's another second or 9 tenths on top of the quarter shift there. So a whole, what's that, 2 seconds, 1 point whatever seconds that is, on its overall performance there in terms of this Alfa Romeo. If you're wondering about the maximum RPM, do check out the FAQ that I've started lobbing in the description, because I know lots of people always have lots of questions, and yeah, there's some answers there for you. Right, first off, let's look at the times then. So you can see here the 4GT top because it's power, then it's the 4C. 4C actually, you know, fuel-wise, better than the 4GT at quarter shift, but it's still slower there. It's slightly faster than the Chevrolet quarter shift, but it loses more fuel. As we go to the next leaderboard there, P11, P12, they're just bottom on the fuel map 3. So it shows the Alfa Romeo is impacted in terms of fuel map 3. It goes down the performance chart. Remember, it was up there with the Ford, and then it's gone down a bit here. So then we're going to look at performance. So the quarter shift here. So this basically is how it's lost in terms of the fuel map 1 setting. You see Chevrolet doesn't lose any time. Actually, it's the best time it's done. But here we have the Alfa down at the bottom of the quarter shift there. Shows a huge performance loss there. Absolutely huge performance loss as we then jump to this screen here, which is the most fuel saved. If you haven't seen this screen before, it's a new graphic that I've put in here. It's the amount of fuel saved there. So you can see the 4GT saves the most in fuel map 3. The Alfa saves the least, and we know it's impacted by the performance there and the performance loss. And you can see there the lowest fuel at the bottom, which is the 4GT. So it's at the top and the bottom of the 4GT in terms of fuel saving. So you can save the most in the 4GT, but you have to because it guzzles all its fuel. And that is those leaderboards there. We don't just stop at fuel, we jump to tyres. So we're going to do times 50 here at Daytona Oval. And again, what we're going to do here is just clock when the first tyre runs out of its tyre. 100% tyre wear on an individual tyre. Now don't worry, I'm not going to show you the entire thing at normal speed. We are going to advance this at times 500. I'll show you the full test all the same. We just keep it on the inside line as much as we can as we go through this. I have talked about doing a separate test for FR cars and MR cars because obviously an MR car will use more of its tyre than an FR car on the rear. And this is just testing the rear tyre essentially just because the weight is over that rear tyre. So Gran Turismo and Tyre Wear is very much impacted by weight as well. There are a few other things now in GT7 from GT Sport, but we're just getting close to the very end there. It's just dropped off at that moment in time. So what we do, we take all the time that we've got there. So lap 1 and lap 2, we add that together, and then we have an idea in terms of the Alfa Romeo tyres. Now, in general, you know, we're looking at an MR-FR split at the moment, and I can look at doing another test as well just to see where they line up in a different tyre test. If you know of a tyre test that we can do for FR cars that would work to test the front tyres, that'd be really useful because obviously testing the rear tyre is useful for on exit, but on entrance and turning, it'd be really nice to know which cars really abuse that front tyre. So let's jump to those all-important boards and let's get an overall idea about what's going on then in terms of the tyre wear. As here we go. So you see the Alfa Romeo comes in. It comes in ahead of the Audi R8 to be fair, which is good to see I suppose because that means it's better on its tyres than the fellow MR car. But it's a bit worse than the 4GT, which is also an MR car there. Let's go to the overall summary then, where the Alfa Romeo actually has P2 overall in terms of optimum times, all added up across all circuits. The Chevrolet still winning there over the Alfa Romeo and the 4GT at the bottom. Remember, that's all optimum lap times added together because we're on the same bop at the moment, which is a bit frustrating when we've got 3 bops there, and that's the idea of this car profiles. Gives us an idea of what's good where and why they should have individual bops on each track and actually change them so it actually makes sense and cars are even closer. That's going to be it in terms of this video. Do subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. We are on the journey to 40k and I appreciate all your support. Give it a like on the way out as well. And if there are any additional tests you'd like to see me do, maybe I can implement them and I will let you know as well. 2 videos to check out, including the last car profile I did and the Beat the Meta the Alfa Romeo did as well. That's it for me. Once again, folks, thank you so much for watching as always. And I hope to see you in another video or live stream again very soon.